success that was Mega Man 2, a year later work on the sequel began, but there were some issues that arose. Akira Kitamura, who was the lead supervisor on the first 2 games, left Capcom in the time between games, which led to some complications. According to Keiji Inafune, Mega Man 3's development was a huge pain in the rear. The new lead supervisor reportedly didn't understand what made the first 2 games fun. The main planner left, which thrusted Inafune into having to fulfill that position. Top it off with the game was forced to release 3 months earlier than the team wanted it to. In September of 1990 in Japan and November in America, Mega Man 3 found its way in the stores, and despite the team's reservations, it would wind up being a critical and financial success, with it receiving 9 out of 10s across the board. Over the years, with my time on the internet, I've seen Mega Man 3 praised, with some people saying that it's just as good as Mega Man 2. That's quite the accolade to award this game, but is that true? Well, let's find out together if Mega Man 3 truly is the perfect threequel. Also, I know I said that I would cover Mega Man 3 and 4 together, but as it turns out, I had a lot more to say about 3 than I thought I would, so Mega Man 4 will get its own video. That, and I don't want to make a nearly 40-minute video. That Pokemon Generation 2 video slaughtered me. Sometime after his defeat in Mega Man 2, Dr. Wily shows up at Dr. Light's door and claims that he's turning over a new leaf and wishes to work with Light once more. Now, if I were Light, I would be very skeptical, but he goes against his better judgment and agrees to work with Wily like they used to. Together, Light and Wily create this peacekeeping robot named Gamma. Gamma. Didn't I just play a game with a robot called Gamma? However, Gamma needs special energy elements that can only be found on other planets, so Wily creates new robot masters to retrieve said elements. Then, like clockwork, contact with the Robot Masters is lost, so Mega Man, along with his new robot dog companion, Rush, head off-world to get the elements and find out what happened to the Robot Masters. God, this title screen is so bare. To go back to Mega Man 2, that had a whole opening cutscene which led into the title screen, but here it's just the copyright stuff and the game's logo. The music is great though, and actually, you know, if there's anywhere to start, let's start there. This game, just like its predecessor, has a pretty kick-ass soundtrack. Hardman Stage is a bop. I half expect the intro section of Snake Man's theme to change into the main theme of Cowboy Bebop. Dr. Wily Fortress 2 got turned into this amazing song by this band called the Megas, and the entire time that I was in the stages where it played, I could only think of that cover. The song that plays on the password screen and when you get a game over, while it's short, it's very catchy, although it feels rather patronizing when you do get a game over, like the game is calling you a piece of shit vagina scab. We got 8 new Robot Masters to tackle, and why are those pixels glitching out between Top Man and Shadow Man? Anyway, there are several good jumping on points, but I decided to start with Snake Man as the first robot to pelt with lemons. Snake Man stage isn't that hard, I find, which is why I thought it would be a great choice to start off with. These snake heads can be a slight pain if you don't know the best way to take care of them, but other than that, this was an easy stage. Too bad I can't say the same thing about Snake Man himself. So Snake Man himself admittedly has a very predictable pattern. However, I have the brain of a Cocker Spaniel, so this wound up being one of the hardest fights in the game for me, but I did beat him after 10 minutes. For tangling with Snake Man, we are awarded the Search Snake, which is hands down one of my favorite special weapons in this game. It fires these little fellas that run along the floor and up the walls, and are excellent for getting those short enemies that the Mega Buster just can't hit. Next, I went and tackled Gemini Man, whose stage reminds me of Flash Man's from previously, except you got these guys dropping firebombs, and also this mysterious robot who goes by the name Breakman shows up and opens up the path forward for us. The second part of the stage sees us needing to destroy these balls, which will then spawn these blue ghost sperm-looking enemies. It's also in this stage that you might notice Mega Man has some new tricks up his sleeve. First up is the slide, which is pretty great. You just hold down and press the jump button, and this opens up plenty of new opportunities for enemy and level design. I also love how you can just switch the direction on a dime, which can be slightly amusing. The other new addition is Rush. Now, you will always start off with one of Rush's abilities, Rush Coil, which will allow Mega Man to launch off his new best friend to reach out-of-place areas and stages, and I absolutely love this. Rush himself acts as a replacement for the items from Mega Man 2, but because Rush is a doggo, he is automatically better by default. Gemini Man will duplicate himself, with you just needing to spam the real one with snakes, because I suppose a guy who can make multiple copies of himself is horrifically afraid of death ropes. For crushing Gemini Man, we get the Gemini Laser, which is probably the second worst special weapon in the game. You can only fire one shot at a time, and if it misses, it begins ricocheting around for what feels like an eternity. And the best part is that on the original NES version, it lags the fuck out of the console. Seriously, thank God for the Legacy Collection, which lets you choose between the original CPU performance or a turbo performance, so it cuts back on a lot of slowdown. Needleman is up next. His stage is home to these annoying hedgehog enemies that shoot out their quills in multiple directions, and they're completely invulnerable when curled up into a ball. Also, fuck this section with these needles that come down from the ceiling. Like, just when I think I have the timing right, boom, impaled. Needleman himself isn't too much of a challenge when you get his pattern down, it's just a matter of the fucking Gemini laser making contact with him. For depinning Needleman, we gain the Needle Cannon, which is just a different skin for the Mega Buster, well, kind of. The height the needles fire at are slightly different each time, but other than that, this is just an okay special weapon. We also gain a new ability for Rush, that being the Rush Jet, which, hot damn, this thing is incredible! So when summoned, you can hop on Rush, and then from there he becomes a platform that you have entire control over. You can just move him in any direction and even stay at a standstill, which makes this infinitely better than Item 2 from the previous entry. A specific level segment giving you shit will just fly right on over it. This is hands down one of the best things in the game. Someone please tell me this comes back!
Well, kinda. You see, it's sort of...
It's so good, I can just skip everything. Oh man, this fucking rocks, man.
I'll let her find that out herself.
Yes, this is so cool. So, now we have a predicament. None of the remaining Robot Masters are weak to any of the weapons that I currently have. Kinda bizarre that this can happen, but I suppose we could head for Magnet Man next. Magnet Man's stage allows us to take on the age-old question of
fucking magnets, how do they work?
Well, they magnetize to metallic objects such as the Blue Bomber here and carry him over pits, which makes magnets pretty cool. Partway through the stage, Breakman shows up and challenges us to a fight where he has the most predictable attack pattern I've ever seen in these games. He just jumps and shoots, with you being able to slide under him to easily avoid him. Magnet Man himself has a pretty easy to understand attack pattern, however, because the Mega Buster is the best weapon that I have against him right now, this took a while, but eventually we demagnetize him and get the Magnet Missile, which turned out to be yet another one of my favorite weapons in this game. You fire it out and it'll go in a straight line, and then the second an enemy is either above or below it, it will automatically turn towards them and obliterate them. I fucking love it. Hardman is next, and there is a dick joke I could make here. I'm not gonna. Hardman stage.
Not the beast! Not the beast!
There were these clamp traps that caught me off guard solely because of the noise that they make. It reminded me of those 20,001 bootleg Famicom carts. We also have yet another fight with Breakman, who is still using the same jumping strategy from before. Well, at least the floor has different heights, but this is still kinda pathetic. Hardman will fire his fists as projectiles and then slam to the floor to stun-lock Mega Man for a few seconds, with us just needing to pump as many magnet missiles up his ass as we can. For softening Hardman, we earn the Hard Knuckle, which is somewhat situational. When it fires, it holds in place for a few seconds before rocketing forward, which means you need to have a good idea of timing when using it. Top Man is our next target, and yes, Dr. Wily made a Robot Master that is literally just a spinning top. His level is fine at least, although I don't quite get why there are these cat enemies that vomit up hairballs and launch ticks. Top Man himself is piss easy. The spinning tops he launches are easy to dodge, and he himself will spin towards you in an attempt to deal damage. After enough punches with the Hard Knuckle, we immobilize Top Man and acquire the Top Spin, which is hands down the worst ability in all of fucking Mega Man. So first off, you have to be in the air to use it, then all Mega Man does is... But as far as I can tell, Mega Man has little to no iframes when using it, so you are guaranteed to take damage when using it, so what the fuck is the point of this weapon? Up next is Shadow Man, who canonically was not created by Light or Wily. Instead, he was created by extraterrestrial beings and therefore is a full-on space alien. It's within this stage that we have our third battle with Breakman, who is still using the same jumping strategy again. Christ, man, do literally anything else, please! There's also this annoying bit of level design with these projectors that turn everything into space, to which I say, Rush, let's skip this shit! Shadow Man himself isn't too terribly difficult. Honestly, most of the difficulty from this fight comes from hitting him with the top spin. For brightening up Shadow Man, we gain the Shadow Blade, which is just the metal blade from Mega Man 2, but it can't be spammed as much, and it travels a set distance across the screen before returning to Mega Man. finally, we can take on Sparkman, who has one of the most hazardous stages in the game with these electrical shockers, as well as this spike ceiling section that, yes, you can skip with Rush Jet. Also, this long drop section gave me some bad vibes, like I was expecting spikes to appear at any moment. Fortunately, they didn't. Sparkman comes equipped with 2 electrical sex aids he can rub together to fire a giant energy ball. However, fortunately, the Shadow Blade makes quick work of him. For grounding Sparkman, we obtain the Shock Spark, which just stuns most enemies, so it isn't too terribly useful. Alright, finally, we can take on Dr. Wily and his new and... What? Were 4 of the stages repopulated? Huh. It just shows a question mark when selected. This seems to be the same. No, wait, there wasn't this long of a ladder here before. Oh god, there are way more spikes here than before. The boss already... Metal Man? Oh no. Oh, fuck. This is Doc Robot, or as I like to call him, Artificial Game Time Extension. This bastard will infiltrate 4 of the previously cleared stages and make them way more difficult. Like seriously, the difficulty spike from these is absurd. Way more spikes all over the place, annoying level design and enemy placement, top it off with you are just going through the same stages again. Yeah, sure, they're remixed, but this feels like the most lazy way they could have gone about this. And as if things couldn't get worse, the asshole of the hour himself copies the 8 Robot Masters from Mega Man 2, except he hits like a truck, making fighting them way more difficult than they were in Mega Man 2. And as if that doesn't sound bad enough, because you no longer have the weapons that they were originally weak against, you now have to figure out their new weaknesses, which is frustrating. You don't get any reward for beating these stages other than the sense that if this is how difficult the mid-game is, then I don't want to think about how difficult the end game is gonna be. After driving out Doc Robot, Brakeman challenges us to one more fight. He really needs to rethink his life decisions if this is the best he can do. Once Brakeman is defeated, Mega Man returns to Dr. Light's lab. Wait, let's talk about the evil energy immediately. Well, Mega Man? Once Brakeman is defeated, Mega Man returns to Light's lab where, egads, Dr. Wily made off with Gamma now that he has all of the elements, so we make our way to Wily's newest castle as he wiggles his eyebrows. Wily Castle 1 has an extra life right at the start, and you know what? I'll take that as an apology for the Doc Robot stages. Holy shit, and E-Tank too! Actually, come to think of it, this stage is littered with extra lives and E-Tanks. And it's not like the level design here is particularly challenging either. Yeah, sure, there are some insta-kill spikes, but they're so easily avoidable, it makes me wonder what the point of them are. At the end is Kamegoro Maker, which spawns these little turtle robots that swim around, all the while these jet streams can push Mega Man. All you need to do is fist the turtles with the hard knuckle, although if I had it my way, I would just throw a bit of plastic straws into the water, since, you know, that would also do the trick. Wily Castle 2 is just as easy as the first one, and not the beat! Again, there are plenty of spikes, but they're still pretty avoidable, along with these clamp traps. At the end is the fucking Yellow Devil Mark II, but he isn't as bullshit hard as his counterpart from Mega Man 1. He has pretty predictable attack patterns that you can actually learn to dodge, and the slide makes this all the more doable. He can still be a bit of a pain, but I actually feel like this was way more of a fair fight than before, although, did his weakness need to be the hard knuckle? Predictably, Wily Castle 3 showers you in more extra lives, E-Tanks, and weapon refills before making you platform in this spike room, which reminds me of Ice Climbers for some reason, but if you know what you're doing, then you won't ever come close to those spikes. The boss of Wily Castle 3 is these hologram Mega Mans, which might seem pretty confusing at first as your attacks appear to do nothing, but what you need to do is find the one that will actually take damage. From there, this becomes a cakewalk thanks to Search Snake. The level design of Wily Castle 4 is very simple, just a bunch of small rooms with these robots that'll throw large bricks at Mega Man, with more health and weapon refills along the way. At the end is the rematch fights against the 8 Robot Masters from this game, and since we have all of their weaknesses, this is a walk in the park. Now, I would say be sure not to waste too much weapon energy, but let's be real, they're gonna give us more than plenty weapon refills after this if the past 3 stages are anything to go by. Once all 8 Robot Masters have been beaten a second time, we can progress to the next stage in the game. Wily Castle 5 immediately throws a ton of weapon refills at us. Oh, look at that, I was right. Heading down, we encounter Dr. Wily and his Wily Machine 3, which looks like it's supposed to be a crab. The first phase is weak to both the Hard Knuckle and the Spark Shock, however phase 2 is only weak to the Hard Knuckle, so I suggest using Spark Shock first, not only to conserve Hard Knuckle's weapon energy for the next phase, but also because Spark Shock is just a more easy weapon to use. After enough hits, Wile is launched into the air as Mega Man moonwalks to the left side of the screen. Okay, that was a little goofy looking. Wile comes crashing down and grovels at Mega Man's feet, only for this Wile to be revealed to be a fake, so Mega Man heads off to confront the real deal. Wile Castle 6... No, this is the final level! They really left a room in here with weapon energy and E-Tank and extra life and health refills? This feels like it should be a debug room. I guarantee you that that's actually what this is. Honestly, what surprises me is that when I entered the Wile Castle stages, I had 1 extra life and no E-Tanks, but I'm now coming out with 7 extra lives and 3 E-Tanks. At long last, we confront Gamma, who is fucking huge! Phase 1 requires that Mega Man hit the brain of the giant robot menace with the Hard Knuckle. After the brain is destroyed, Wile comes down to control the robot for Phase 2, and the best part is, you'd never guess what it's weak to. With Gamma defeated, Dr. Wile grovels at her feet, but soon after the castle begins to collapse with debris falling on both Wile and Mega Man. Breakman appears and rescues Mega Man while noting that it's too late for Wile. Mega Man regains consciousness at Light's lab, where the Doctor recognizes the familiar whistle of Breakman and comes to the realization that he must really be Proto Man. We then get shown all of the Robot Masters Light has created, with it ending on Proto Man, Light's first creation and the older brother of Mega Man. The Blue Bomber looks on as the image of Proto Man forms in the sky and, shit, looks like Wile survived. That can only mean his inevitable return. With that, we can put an end to Meg Griffin 3. This game is very intriguing to me. On one hand, I think some things could have absolutely been handled better, such as the odd difficulty balancing around the mid and late game. Not to mention, I think Doc Robot should have been completely reworked to be less of a pain, but on the other hand, I think this game excels very well in areas such as level design, enemy and boss design. I also find the special weapons to be a bit more useful this go around. It's really bizarre to me because while yes, I can see that this game definitely needed more time in the oven to bake, I find it better than Mega Man 2 in some regards, which makes me wonder if this game could have been made better or potentially worse if it had gotten that 3 extra months of game development time. But as it stands, I think this is at best comparable to Mega Man 2, which I would argue is quite the accomplishment. Sometime after the launch of Mega Man 3, work began on a follow-up which would release on the NES/Famicom after the launch of the Super Nintendo/Super Famicom, so I hope you'll join me next time for when we take on Mega Man 4. Subscribe to the channel if that sounds interesting to you, and leave a like and a comment should you choose. With all of that said, I hope you have a great day or night. Peace.